morning. My name is Aaron Walker. I'm president and founder of Viewfromthetop. I'm a premier life and business coach helping ordinary people become extraordinary in all they do. Hey, would you go on a journey with me this morning just for a few minutes? Just take some time, sit back, get you a cup of coffee. I went in, brewed up a big pot this morning, and I started thinking about my life. I started thinking about the 41 years that I've lived as an entrepreneur. We've owned 14 businesses to date, over 4 decades now. And I think, I was going to kick back about 8 years ago and retire, and I was going to go down to the Caribbean and just hang out in one of those little tiki huts down there and rock myself into an oblivion. And some of my mastermind members encouraged me not to do this. They said, I don't think that'll serve you well if you do that. And I want to take you back on a little bit of a journey with me, if you'll allow me to spend a few minutes with you. First of all, I was 18 years old when I started my first business. Man, I had the world by the tail. I thought this is going to be absolutely amazing. And the truth of the matter was I was scared to death. I was horrified because I didn't have anybody in my corner. I didn't have anybody helping me make these decisions. And so I went out on my own and did. And Robin and I got married a year later, 2 weeks out of high school. When Robin graduated, we got married. And I said, Robin, we can't mess this up. I mean, we may never get this opportunity again because we both come from family that were just working class people. And I said, we may never get this opportunity again. And so I want to make the best of it. So we did. We worked day and night for years and years. God honored those efforts. And when I was 27 years old, I sold the business to a Fortune 500. And we did well. And I thought, well, this is the American dream. Poor kid from Nashville, Tennessee, makes enough to retire by 27 years old, but nobody cares. And I got extremely depressed. I was getting bored. I was getting in the bed in the middle of the day. And Robin woke me up one day and she said, excuse me, she said, listen, this is not what I signed up for. And I said, well, Robin, I'm bored. I don't have any reason to get up and I don't have any purpose. There's no meaning in my life. And she said, you need to get a job. You need to go back. You need to do something. And so I did. I went back to the place I worked for when I was a teenager and started working there, ended up being a partner in that business. And we spent the next 10 years really building that business to about 4 times the size it was. And I thought, man, this is unbelievable. My life was epic. Like I was working 3 days a week. My partner was working the other 3 days a week. And we did well. But the truth of the matter was I didn't have anybody to help me make decisions. You see, I had this isolation like none other. I mean, I was making boneheaded decisions because I didn't have any trusted advisors. I didn't have anybody around me to help me to understand and to navigate these uncharted waters. And so it was about August 1st, 2001, not about exactly 2001, August 1st. I was headed to the office and I had a horrific automobile accident. A pedestrian didn't look my way and was crossing the street. And unfortunately, I ran over and killed a pedestrian. And my life felt devastated. Literally, it felt like it was over. There again, I didn't have anybody really but some friends at my local church and in our community. But I didn't have a regularly scheduled group. I didn't have anybody that I went and met with each and every week. So I hired a counselor, helped me work through that. I sold the business. I took the next 5 years off. I didn't do anything. Well, about that time, I met a guy that invited me to join his mastermind group. And I never even heard of a mastermind group. Some of you have heard of the guy that I'm referring to. His name's Dave Ramsey, now a talk show host. He's on about 800 radio stations. But when I first met Dave in the early 90s, I sponsored his show. So I spent 21 consecutive years being a sponsor on his show. And in about the early 2000s, I saw Dave at a Mercy Me concert here in Nashville. And he came up to me and he said, Big A, he said, I want you to join my mastermind group. And I said, I don't even know what a mastermind group is. And he said, well, just come to my office next Wednesday and I'll introduce you to the guys. And I think it'll be beneficial to you. Well, I didn't want to go. Just to be honest with you, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to be transparent. And I was pretty authentic, but there were some areas of my life that really needed some improvement, just to be totally honest with you. And so I thought about it, talked to Robin about it. She said, why don't you just go try it? So I did. I drove out to Franklin and started meeting with these guys, and I was quiet. I sat off in the corner and I just listened. I didn't really participate. I didn't have much to say. And then the other guys started sharing. And I started saying, like, well, they've got real problems too. I mean, they don't have their whole life together either. And so I won't take you through the course of the next 12 years, but what I found out is that when we are authentic, when we let that veil down, when we become transparent with a small group of people, it really allows you to have non-biased, trusted advisors that can breathe into your life and can give you some sense of hope. They can give you some sense of direction. And so when I did retire at 50 years old, about 9 years ago, I retired and I went to the Mastermind group meeting and the guys encouraged me to coach. And I said, I'm not coaching anybody. Like, I've been working since I was 13 years old. I'm tired. I'm done. I'm finished. I'm like, it's over. And Dan Miller leaned over the table and he pointed his finger at me and he said, that's the most selfish thing I've ever heard you say. And I wanted to poke his eye out with my finger. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been working since I was like 8 years old. And I'm 50 now. I'm ready to take a break. He said, well, take a break, but you don't need to stop. And so they encouraged me to coach. So Dave invited me to do Entree Leadership Mastery. He said, it'll be my gift to you. So I went and I did it. Well, I fell in love with it. Well, then Dan said, come to the sanctuary and do Innovate. It was a coaching program. So I went to Innovate and I was doing the coaching program. And that night I was on my way home. Dave and Dan and I, we all live here in Nashville, not far from each other. And I received a text message on my phone. And it was from Dan. And he said, Aaron, he said, did you notice the people at your table when you were talking, how they were leaning in, they were really listening? And I said, well, maybe I'm a good storyteller. And he said, no, it's not it at all. He said, you and Robin have had over 30 years of a successful marriage. And he said, you've owned all these businesses and you retired early. You need to encourage, you need to coach, you need to train. And so Robin and I prayed about it. We talked about it after going to Entree Leadership Mastery and after going to Innovate out at the sanctuary in Franklin, we decided to coach. And I met two guys. One of them was named Brett Barnhart and the other one was named Matt Miller. Brett lived in Glenpool, Oklahoma, and Matt lived in Stephenville, Texas. And so they said, would you coach us? Would you train us and teach us to accomplish some of the things personally and professionally that you've been able to accomplish in your life? And so I said, well, sure, I'll coach you two guys. Well, I did. I started coaching them and absolutely loved it. And we took their businesses to new heights and they were very appreciative. As a matter of fact, still have those guys in our organization today, now almost 7 years, been meeting weekly. Well, what we started, though, was a mastermind group called Iron Sharpens Iron. When I realized that I couldn't necessarily scale coaching, I started doing these podcast interviews, and I realized that I needed another platform. Well, I knew masterminds well. I said, I've been doing that for years and years with Dave and Dan and many of those guys, and I know how to do that. So we put together a mastermind. Well, when you look up the terminology mastermind, there's these fancy definitions. You know, there's these definitions of two or more minds gather together, form a third mind, and you have a definitive purpose in mind, and you go after it, and you accomplish your goal. And I'm like, oh, that's good. But the truth of the matter, my definition of what masterminds are is the Calvary has arrived. There's help on the way. That's what it really means. And I want to share with you a couple of things that have transpired over the course of the past 7 years in Iron Sharpens Iron. I had a guy call me from Alberta, Canada. His name is David. And David said, hey, I watch your videos. I've heard your podcast. I've seen all this. And I want to join the mastermind. And I said, well, that'd be great, David. I'd love for you to join the mastermind. He said, but the truth of the matter is I only make $18,000 a year. And he said, the cost of your mastermind, is going to be about a quarter of my annual income. And I said, well, David, are you sure it's a good thing that you join? I'm not certain that that's the wisest decision for you right now. And he goes, I don't have another option. He said, I've got to join. Everything I've tried has not worked. He said, I'm not living right. He said, I'm living with this girl that I know I shouldn't be living with. I'm living a life that I know is not the right lifestyle I need to live. Everything I do from a business perspective is not working out well. And I need quality people around me that can help me go to the next level. And so I started talking to him and talked to our team, and they said, well, if he's willing to join and wants to spend a quarter of his income, let him join. 18 months later, he moved the girl out. He changed his life. He started living a life of faith. He started practicing systems and processes that many of our guys had introduced him to. And last November, when I was talking to him, he told me year to date through November, 11 months, he still had his best month ahead of him. He had done $300,000 in revenue. So he went from $18,000 a year to to $300,000 a year. And I said, David, how did you do that? He said, well, I needed the people around me to encourage me. I needed people around me to hold me accountable. I needed people around me to tell me the lifestyle I was living was not correct. And I needed to get my act together if I was going to do better. And I commend him, man. He's killed it. He's implemented these systems and these processes. He's got the right people on his team. He's expanded his business. And he has done it in a very short period of time. And I credit that to his mastermind members, the people that were willing to surround him and help him. Another quick story. There's a guy very successful in our mastermind group. He's done amazing things, literally makes millions of dollars a year. And one day I had him on my mind because he was struggling personally with some areas in his life. And I called him up on the phone, and as fate would have it, he was sitting at his desk and he was crying. This guy was literally crying and he couldn't get his breath. And I said, man, are you okay? He said, no, I'm not okay at all. He said, I've got some relationship problems with one of my children and I don't know what to do. So he came to the group the next week and he laid it all out. He said, personally, I'm a train wreck. He said, professionally, we're doing well. And to all the standards of the world, you would look at him and say, this guy's crushing it in every arena. But the truth of the matter is he had a situation in his family that was devastating him. Well, over the course of about a year, it took the guys to walk him through being a better dad, being the man that he was called to be, and engaging his children. And now his relationships are thriving with many of his children, and they're not what they were years ago. You see, what happens is we can get distracted. We can come home with a pocket full of money to a house full of strangers if we're not careful, and we still end up a loser. And I want to encourage you today, if some of these scenarios sound familiar to you, we have the solution. The solution is a mastermind group. The Calvary is coming. There's help on the way when you surround yourself with trusted advisors, people that are non-biased, people that can help, people that will tell you the truth. You see, the truth is we all have superpowers, and it's easy to point those out. But the thing that's more important is we have blind spots. We have areas in our life that we don't necessarily see. I had a family member tell me one time, other people see you differently than you see yourself. And you need people to walk alongside you to give you the truth. You need people to help you and to encourage you, but for people to point out the blind spots in your life. See, that's what a mastermind is. We make it so difficult and we use these fancy descriptive words to say what a mastermind group is. The truth of the matter is it's your own board of directors. It's people that give you that aid and that help and that support and that encouragement. Years ago when I was in the Eagles with Dave Ramsey, there was a guy in there named James Ryle. James Ryle was a public speaker, traveled all over the world. He was an amazing guy. And I was in a dark place. And I don't know if you guys have ever been in a dark place. I don't know if you've been in a place you couldn't get out of. No matter how hard you tried, no matter how hard you pushed, you just couldn't get out of this spot. Well, I was there. Now, this has been decades ago, but I was in this dark place that I didn't have any hope. James called me one day and he said, hey, I'm sick and tired of you moaning and belly aching and crying. It's time to pick yourself up. It's time to dust yourself off. It's time that we move on and quit allowing the things that have happened in your past to identify who you are. And I'm not going to allow that as your mastermind brother. I'm going to disallow that you do that. Well, I wanted to bite a nail into him. He made me so mad. The following Wednesday, I walked up to him. And I'm a big guy. I'm 6'4", 235 pounds. He's about 5'7", weighed about $140. I mean, he was a pretty short, small guy. And I walked up to him, towering over him. He thought I was going to hit him. And I reached over and grabbed him and I hugged him. Tears running down my face. And I said, thank you for loving me enough to tell me the truth. Listen, the paradigm shift that happened that day is immeasurable. I said, I can't let what I've done in the past define who I am today. And I needed somebody like James. Well, listen, if I hadn't invested years and years and years at a time where it was most crucial to me to pick myself up and dust myself off, I wouldn't have had anybody that would be willing to tell me the truth. I want to ask you today, who do you have? Who do you have today that is in your circle of influence that is willing to tell you the hard things, that is willing to take you to the level that you need to go, even in tough love? even telling you, hey, you need to get over this. I'm sick and tired of hearing you talk about it, and you need to move up. Excuse me. Yeah, I got to take a drink of my coffee. I'm getting so excited. That's good coffee. I don't know if you like coffee. I love coffee. That is good. I hope you got a good cup. Listen, guys, the truth of the matter is, at some point in time in your life, you're going to need people around you to help you. Things may be good for you right now. Trevor George is a great guy in our mastermind group. He happens to be Garth Brooks' videographer. Does an amazing job. He moved to Nashville about a decade ago just to get that job, and it took him about 8 years constantly going after Garth, saying, I'm the best videographer there is. I'd like this job. Finally, he got it. Several years ago, he got that job. And he came up to me at church. We go to the same church, and he's been in the mastermind group now for a couple of years. And he goes, Big A, he said, I think I'm going to leave the group. And I said, why? He said, well, things are good now. I'm making more money than I've ever made before. And Ashley and I are good, and family's good right now. And I think it's just time that I check out. And I said, well, let me just give you food for thought. Go ahead if you want to do that. And things are good for you right now. Making more money than you've ever made. You got a beautiful wife. You got 3 beautiful little boys. And life is good. Bought a new house. Things are great. But what are you going to do when something devastating happens? What are you going to do if that job goes away? Or what are you going to do if you can't afford where you're at? What are you going to do if there's sickness that comes on? He said, what do you mean? I said, things are good for you today, but the relationships that you're pouring into people today, at some point in time, life deals us some hands that, we get blindsided sometimes. What are you going to do then? He said, I hadn't thought about that. I said, things may be good for you right now, but the time is coming where you're going to need trusted advisors around you to help you work through difficult days. There were many times, months after months after months, even year after year, I even thought, do I want to spend 45 minutes driving from Hendersonville to Franklin to meet with these guys for an hour and a half and then drive back 45 minutes in traffic and takes up 4 or 5 hours of my Wednesday? And then I started thinking, you know what? They've helped me in so many ways. Not every single week, and every single week wasn't a banner week. But there was times where somebody said something and I would say, what did you say? Would you repeat what you just said? And they would. And I'm like, that's the piece I need. That's the very thing. That's the missing puzzle piece to take my business to the next level, or to help me as a father, or to help me as a businessman. That right there, that is what I needed to take me to the next level. That's going to allow me to scale my business. And oftentimes we give high fives and fist bumps, and I would be like, oh my gosh, these years of driving out here was worth hearing that one thing that put my life on a different trajectory. There were so many times where I didn't know what to do as a dad. I'm like, hey, I'm a knucklehead. I've got 2 beautiful daughters. I've never been a dad before. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to help them through these teenage years. I don't know how to help them get prepared for college. But many guys in our circle they'd already been there. They'd already done that. And they would say, you need to try this, or you need to implement this. And I would do it and it would work. And I would be like, I can't believe that I didn't know that. Guys, you don't know what you don't know. And I want to encourage you today to think through, who is your trusted advisors? Who are the people in your life that's going to help take you to the next level? Who are those people that you can depend on and trust when the chips are down? Who's going to celebrate with you when things are good if you don't have those trusted advisors in your life that's going to help tell you the truth? There are so many stories for hours, even days, and possibly weeks that I could sit here and tell you how meaningful and purposeful being in a mastermind group has for me. Yeah, absolutely. That's my business. Sure, I would sit here and promote something and tell you, you need to do it. But I wouldn't do something like that for 20 years, right? 2 decades every single week if it wasn't beneficial, if it wasn't meaningful. We have a video platform called Zoom, and we meet on that every single week. We have people now in 9 different countries. So it doesn't matter the time that you're in. We have people that get up at 1 a.m. in the morning in the Philippines to get on a call. We have one guy in Australia that gets up at 4 a.m. He's in the next day. Like, we have mastermind groups going on in 2 different days, right? Because he's in Australia. We're in America, and the majority of our people are in America, but we do have representation in 9 different countries now. We have an accountability tool. There's 10 questions that you have to answer, and then there's 2 thought-provoking questions that really make you think about your day and what's going on in your life and how you can move the needle. Then we assign accountability partners, and in these partners, they check with each other every day through a phone call, a Zoom, a text, Voxer, whatever means that you want to communicate, you can do that. But they're moving the needle. They're making accomplishments like they've never been able to do before, because procrastination is the enemy. And it disallows you to procrastinate when you have an accountability partner. This is what we do in the Mastermind group, and it's been absolutely outstanding. We have themes every month. We have books every month that we read. We have thought-provoking questions that we ask you to kind of get the juices flowing, to get the conversation going. We have what's called Man in the Middle. And every single week, somebody comes to the group, they post their 3 questions in our private Facebook group, and we have time to prepare and do research and figure out how we can best help that ISI brother. And we do that every single week, and we have 2 guys that do it, or 2 ladies in the ladies group, or 2 young men in the emerging ISI, emerging men mastermind groups that do it. It is absolutely transformational in every regard, personally and professionally, when you are man in the middle. Because you're able to be the central focus and other people surround you. They give you great ideas, encouragement. They stop you from doing crazy things, and they encourage you to do great things. And that's what we do every single week. Listen, there's no way I would have even remotely close to the success that I've had without the trusted advisors, my board of directors, the people that tell me the truth every single week. And I want that for you. I know you want it for yourself also, because isolation is the enemy to excellence. And I say that every single week on tons of videos, on tons of interviews. It is lonely when you cut that camera off, or you get off that call and there's nobody else around, or you've never even been on a call. You don't even have anybody to talk to in the first place. You get to the fork of the road, you don't know whether to turn right or left. Who's going to help you make those decisions? So use your fancy terminology for the word mastermind, but the truth of the matter is, it's just help. It's people that care that can help take you to the next level. And I'm so thankful today for all the people in my life that come to me and pour into me. You know, recently we've started getting a lot of people recognizing who we are. And the reason that they're recognizing who we are is because we have scaled mastermind groups. And I want to talk to you about that just for a moment. People started calling me saying, Big A. Everybody calls me Big A in this community. They said, Big A, how can I duplicate what you've done? How can I start a mastermind group? And then how can I grow it? And then how can I scale it like y'all have scaled it? And today we're about to start our 19th mastermind group. It's crazy when I think about it. I look back over 7 years ago and think, hey, I was going to coach 2 men, Brett Barnhart and Matt Miller. And today God had a different plan. And now we're about to launch the 19th mastermind group. It blows my mind. It's a 7-figure business now. I was going to coach 2 guys and help them with their business. You can do the same thing. And you're like, Big A, I don't have the experience. Listen, I've got a high school education. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just that you've got to implement the strategies that we've created. So when these people started calling me, asking me, how can I do this? I said, well, I hadn't thought a whole lot about it. And they said, would you coach me to do this? And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I don't really want to do that. But I probably would. They said, how much would you charge? And I said, well, since I don't really want to do it, I'm going to throw a high number out there and get rid of them. Well, I threw a ridiculous number out there, and I said, I'll charge you this much, and it'll take 6 weeks for me to train you. They said, where do I send the money? And I said, are you serious? And they said, yeah, I'm dead serious, man. No one has ever scaled masterminds like you've scaled them. So I said, send it to this account. So they sent me the money, and I started coaching. They got up and going. They loved it. Well, I got another call. Same scenario. Guy, would you train me to do it? Yeah, this is how much it costs. Where do I send the money? And I'm like, This is unbelievable. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, well, I've taken something from nothing and made a 6-figure and then a high 6-figure and then a 7-figure business out of it. Maybe there is great value there. My daughter walked into the office one day. She's our COO. Brooke is her name. Brooke runs our company and does an outstanding job. And she said, Dad, only person in our company that can call me Dad, by the way. She said, Dad, she said, why don't we create a playbook? I said, a what? She said, a playbook. Let's create a playbook and teach other people how they can do the same thing. And I said, why would I want to do that? These people are paying me obscene amounts of money to coach them. She said, yeah, but in the playbook, so many more people could do it. And you wouldn't have to spend all of your time training and coaching. So I thought about it. I said, hey, it makes perfect sense. So we gathered our team together and we said, here's what we're going to do. So we started creating systems and processes. And I mean detailed systems and processes. We don't leave any stone unturned. We teach you in the playbook how to start one group if that's what you want to do, and that's fine. You can do that. But then we teach you how to scale. We give you all the curriculum. We give you the themes, the books, the questions to ask. We've even created 30 months worth of curriculum, books, titles, themes, questions to the books that you can lead these mastermind groups every single week for 30 months without creating any content. People said, hey, that sounds great, I'm all in, but I don't know how to even get the people. We created a course that teaches you how to get the people. We walk you step through step. We said, we don't know anything about marketing. So we created white labeled products that help you. The lead magnets that we give you is like a personal assessment, steps to a productive day, the spouse survey. It goes on. And we've white labeled those. So you can just put your own logo on these and you've got your lead magnets. And they said, well, I know that the live events are important, but we don't know how to do that. We created an entire step in this process with worksheets that tell you exactly how to do a live event. We overcame every hurdle that there is. You're like, I don't know what to say. I don't have all the answers. You don't have to have all the answers. We created the framework, and what you need to do is implement the framework, and we walk you step by step how to run the meeting every single week. We teach you how to do man in the middle. We've created an entire course within this playbook that teaches you how to raise up facilitators so that you don't have to trade your time for money each and every week. So the facilitators can lead the groups, and you can make money and not even attend the group, because every step is already there. And a lot of people say, yeah, Big A, that sounds too good to be true. We have social proof. I have 19 groups. We've had people with us now 6 years in the same group. So it's like recurring revenue. I mean, it happens every single month. It's very predictable revenue. We even developed a pro forma. We teach you all the expenses that you are to look out for in your mastermind group, so you know exactly what your margins are going to be before you start. Listen, you don't need that many people to be successful with the Mastermind Playbook. Let me tell you why. The average is about $500 a month. That's what people pay to be in mastermind groups, and quite honestly, that's on the lower end of the scale. People pay $1,000, $1,500. I know of groups that are $100,000 a year. And many people that have looked at this said that there's more content in this and what we teach than in some groups that charge $50,000 and $100,000. Let's face it, a lot of those groups you're paying for access to other people. It's not the actual experience that you get. And I'm not saying you don't get that in other larger groups. There's amazing groups out there that are $50,000, $100,000. And I encourage you to join those if you can. But this playbook outlines a process that is proven to be very successful with hundreds of people now. Hundreds, not a few people, hundreds of people have gone through this program. And if you have one group that's $500 a month, and we suggest about 10 or 12 people in the group, you've got $60,000 or $70,000 a year in recurring revenue, and you're on an hour call every single week. 2 groups puts you at a 6-figure business. All you need is 20 people to have a 6-figure business. Now, listen, that's not the case always in every circumstance, and we're not guaranteeing anybody that they're going to do that. We never do that. We never throw out any guarantees. I'm just telling you what I've done personally. Getting interruptions this morning. I'm a popular person on this morning while I'm recording this. Forgive me for those distractions. We've had it twice now. All I want to encourage you to do is to consider it. If you're not in a group, we'd love to have you in Iron Sharpens Iron. If you're looking to develop a group, you're looking to do something on your own, you're looking to take your business model to the next level, we have thought leaders, we have coaches, there's moms using this now. Many women are looking at the product to start various industry-specific groups. Tons of people are buying this now for industry-specific groups. We have one guy that is in the architectural field, and he deals with architects, and so he is doing this specific for that. Whatever industry you're in, we've just created the framework. And I just want to encourage you today, if this is something that might be attractive, I want you to contact us. And the best way to do that is themastermindplaybook.com/Aaron, AARON. That's themastermindplaybook.com/Aaron, AARON. And we have one of our salespeople that can talk you through it. We don't ever twist arms. We're not a high-pressure company. We want to walk with you. We want to help you. And by allowing us to do that, I think you're going to be more successful. And here's what we're offering to do. Not only are we going to sell you this playbook, we're not going to leave you to your own. Every other Tuesday for 3 months, you come to a 1-hour session with me or my team, and we hold your hand, we answer your questions, we walk you through it to help make you successful. Now listen, there's not many playbooks out there that you can buy that you get that kind of back office support for a 3-month period. Not only that, we have a Facebook group that when you buy this, it's like being in a mastermind of mastermind leaders that you never have to leave. You can stay, continue to get updates and feedback and interact with other members in that group. So I just want to encourage you today to think about it. I just wanted to share my journey. I wanted to tell a little bit about how I got here, how we've implemented this strategy, how we've been successful at mastermind groups ourselves. And then if you want to do that, we've created the playbook so you can do it as well. So I'm going to leave you with that. I'm Aaron Walker, President and founder of View from the Top, and thank you for allowing me this time today.